Episode 11 limits the danger of thinking you understand power completely. As we delve deeper into the limits of our framework, another crucial consideration emerges: the role of context. Power dynamics are inherently situational, shaped by a complex interplay of factors that cannot be fully captured by any single model or theory. While it's tempting to assume uniformity in power operations across contexts, this assumption can lead to inaccurate predictions and poor decision-making. Think about it: the same institution, policy, or leader can have vastly different effects depending on specific circumstances. A well-designed program might be highly effective in one setting but fail miserably in another due to differences in cultural norms, economic conditions, or social structures. Similarly, a charismatic leader who inspires devotion in one community might be met with skepticism and resistance in another. This highlights the importance of considering context when making predictions or decisions. This is not to say that we should abandon all attempts at generalization or theorizing about power. Rather, it's essential to recognize the limits of our knowledge and avoid making sweeping claims that ignore the nuances of context. A good model should be able to accommodate these differences rather than pretending they don't exist. In fact, acknowledging these limitations can actually improve the accuracy and usefulness of our models. Another limit to consider is the role of human agency in shaping power dynamics. Individual choices and actions can be unpredictable and hard to model, even with the best data and most sophisticated algorithms. This doesn't mean that structural factors aren't important; they certainly are, but it does mean we should be cautious about overemphasizing the predictive power of our models. In fact, one of the most significant limits to our framework is its own tendency towards oversimplification. Power dynamics can be incredibly complex, with multiple actors, interests, and constraints interacting in ways that defy easy categorization or prediction. Our models may capture some aspects of this complexity, but they will inevitably gloss over others, potentially leading us astray. So what's the takeaway from these limits? Our framework is a tool, not a definitive truth. It can help us understand power dynamics to some extent, but it's essential to recognize its limitations and avoid treating it as absolute or an explanation. By acknowledging these limits, we can use our models in a more nuanced and humble way, recognizing that power is inherently messy, context-dependent, and subject to human agency. As we delve deeper into the complexities of power dynamics, it's crucial to acknowledge that our frameworks are not only simplifications but also abstractions. They can never fully capture the richness and depth of real-world politics. Power operates at multiple levels, with various actors and interests intersecting in complex ways. Moreover, our models may capture some aspects of this complexity, but they will inevitably gloss over others, potentially leading us astray. In particular, consider the concept of structure versus agency. In our model, we might emphasize the structural constraints that shape power dynamics, institutions, norms, and resources. However, in reality, human agency plays a significant role as well. Individuals and groups can manipulate structures to their advantage or create new ones altogether. Our models may not account for these nuances, leading us to overemphasize the role of structure at the expense of agency. Furthermore, our frameworks often prioritize certain variables or factors while neglecting others that might be equally important. For instance, we might focus on economic interests as a primary driver of power dynamics, but overlook the roles of cultural norms, social identity, and environmental concerns. By acknowledging these limitations, we can avoid the trap of reductionism, the tendency to simplify complex phenomena by focusing on a single variable or factor. In addition, our models are often based on assumptions about human behavior and decision-making that may not always hold true. We might assume, for instance, that actors are rational and self-interested, but in reality, they may be driven by emotions, values, or the desire to maintain social status. By recognizing these limitations, we can avoid assuming our models accurately capture real-world behavior. Ultimately, our framework is not a truth, but rather a tool designed to facilitate analysis and understanding. It's essential to recognize its limitations and use it in a more nuanced and humble way, acknowledging that power is inherently messy, context-dependent, and subject to human agency's unpredictable whims. By doing so, we can avoid the dangers of overinterpretation and cultivate a deeper appreciation for the complexity and uncertainty that characterizes real-world politics. As we delve into the intricacies of power dynamics, it's crucial to acknowledge our framework's inherent limitations. This is because the danger of thinking you understand power completely is not just oversimplification, but also misinterpretation. Our models are only as good as the data that informs them, and in reality, we're always working with incomplete information. Moreover, this limitation can lead to pitfalls like misidentifying constraints or overestimating coherence where none exists. One of the most insidious consequences of this limitation is generating confidence without accuracy. A well-crafted model can produce explanations that feel convincing, even when they're fundamentally flawed. This highlights the importance of humility in our analysis, as we must recognize that our models are not objective truths, but rather tools designed to facilitate understanding and analysis. In reality, power is inherently messy, context-dependent, and subject to human agency's unpredictable whims. By acknowledging these limitations and using our framework in a more nuanced and humble way, we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for the complexity and uncertainty that characterizes real-world politics. Furthermore, this humility allows us to approach power dynamics with curiosity and openness, rather than dogmatic certainty. Ultimately, by recognizing its limitations and using it in a more nuanced and humble way, our framework can help us avoid the dangers of overinterpretation and cultivate a deeper appreciation for the complexity and uncertainty that characterizes real-world politics. As we explore the limits of our framework, another crucial consideration arises: the role of context. Power dynamics are inherently situated within specific historical, cultural, and institutional contexts, which shape the very nature of power struggles and influence what constitutes a strategic move or coherent narrative. This contextual complexity is often overlooked when developing models that aim to capture the essence of power, as we tend to focus on universal patterns and mechanisms instead. However, by acknowledging this context-dependent nature of power, we can develop more nuanced and accurate models that better reflect the complexities of real-world politics. This abstraction can lead us astray, as it neglects the ways in which context can fundamentally alter the dynamics at play. For instance, a strategy that might be effective in one setting may prove disastrous in another. Conversely, a narrative that resonates with some audiences may fall flat with others. By ignoring these contextual differences, we risk imposing our own biases and assumptions onto the complex realities of power politics, which can lead to inaccurate conclusions. Moreover, context can also influence the very nature of power itself. In some settings, power may be more concentrated or decentralized; in others, it may be characterized by a greater degree of fluidity or rigidity. Recognizing these contextual differences is essential for developing a nuanced understanding of power dynamics that can adapt to the complexities of real-world politics. Ultimately, acknowledging the limits of our framework and the importance of context requires us to approach power analysis with humility and curiosity. Rather than seeking definitive answers or universal truths, we must be willing to engage in ongoing dialogue and refinement, continually updating our understanding as new information emerges and contexts evolve. This willingness to learn and adapt is crucial for developing a deeper appreciation for the complexity and uncertainty that characterizes real-world politics. As we delve deeper into the intricacies of power dynamics, it's essential to recognize that even the most sophisticated frameworks are inherently limited by their reliance on incomplete information. The signals we interpret, whether behavior, outcomes, or patterns, are always filtered through multiple layers of mediation, leaving us with a fragmented understanding of the system. This inherent uncertainty can lead to misidentification of constraints, misreading of incentives, and overestimation of coherence where none exists. And yet, our models can still produce explanations that feel convincing, even when they're wrong. This is precisely why it's so crucial to approach power analysis with humility and curiosity. Rather than seeking definitive answers or universal truths, we must be willing to engage in ongoing dialogue and refinement, continually updating our understanding as new information emerges and contexts evolve. In fact, this willingness to learn and adapt is essential for developing a deeper appreciation for the complexity and uncertainty that characterizes real-world politics. In reality, power dynamics are rarely static; they're constantly evolving, influenced by a multitude of factors that can't be captured by any single framework. A nuanced understanding of power requires us to remain open-minded, willing to challenge our assumptions and adjust our models as new information becomes available. This process necessitates flexibility and a willingness to revise our initial insights. Ultimately, the danger of thinking we understand power completely lies not in our ability to identify patterns or structures, but rather in our tendency to overinterpret those findings. By acknowledging the limits of our knowledge and the importance of context, we can avoid oversimplification and instead embrace the complexity and uncertainty that characterizes real-world politics. As new information becomes available, it's natural to revisit our frameworks and models, wondering if they still hold up or need significant revision. Rather than abandoning them altogether, we should recognize their limitations and use them as tools for ongoing exploration and refinement, a process that allows us to capture the nuances and subtleties of real-world politics. Moreover, by doing so, we can avoid thinking that our initial insights are fixed or absolute, when in reality, power dynamics are constantly evolving. In fact, it's our willingness to question and refine our understanding that enables us to capture the nuances and subtleties of real-world politics. When we acknowledge the limitations of our knowledge and the importance of context, we can begin to see the world with greater clarity, rather than being trapped in a simplistic or outdated model. Furthermore, our initial frameworks provide a foundation for further exploration and refinement, a process that ultimately enables us to develop a more comprehensive understanding of power dynamics. The key to maintaining a healthy dose of humility lies in recognizing that our understanding of power dynamics is always provisional, subject to revision as new information becomes available. By embracing this uncertainty, we can avoid oversimplification and instead develop a more nuanced and realistic appreciation of the complexities involved. Ultimately, the danger of thinking we understand power completely lies not in identifying patterns or structures, but rather in overinterpreting those findings. As we delve deeper into this framework, it's essential to acknowledge that the signals we're observing are always incomplete and filtered through multiple layers of mediation. This inherent uncertainty can lead us down a path of misidentification, where we mistakenly assume coherence where none exists, a perilous trap as it can generate unwarranted confidence without actual insight. Moreover, this uncertainty highlights the importance of acknowledging the provisional nature of our understanding, which underscores the need to cultivate humility and recognize that our understanding of power dynamics is always subject to revision. By acknowledging the limitations of our knowledge, we can develop a more nuanced appreciation of the complexities involved, allowing us to approach each situation with a critical eye, recognizing that our initial interpretations may be incomplete or even incorrect. Another limitation of this framework is its tendency to oversimplify complex systems, which can lead to a loss of the essence of what makes power so intriguing: its capacity for surprise, propensity for chaos, and susceptibility to unintended consequences. Furthermore, this oversimplification can lead us to overlook crucial factors that might otherwise be revealed through a more comprehensive analysis. As we strive to develop a comprehensive understanding of power, it's essential that we remain aware of our tendency towards oversimplification, which requires embracing the complexity of real-world scenarios rather than imposing order through simplistic frameworks. By doing so, we can create models that better capture the nuances and uncertainties inherent in these systems. Ultimately, the danger of thinking we understand power completely lies not in identifying patterns or structures, but in overinterpreting those findings, a risk that can be mitigated by recognizing the limits of our knowledge and the complexity of the systems we're studying. By acknowledging the provisional nature of our understanding and the need for ongoing refinement, we can develop a more realistic appreciation of power dynamics, one that acknowledges uncertainty and complexity. As we delve deeper into the complexities of power politics, it's crucial to acknowledge the inherent limitations of our analysis. This limitation is particularly problematic when our models are internally consistent but built upon incomplete or inaccurate data. In such cases, our confidence in the model's explanatory power can be misplaced, leading to a false sense of understanding that can have far-reaching consequences. To avoid this pitfall, we must cultivate humility towards our knowledge and engage with the complexity of power dynamics, rather than imposing order through simplistic frameworks. This requires acknowledging the provisional nature of our understanding and the need for ongoing refinement, which in turn allows us to develop a nuanced appreciation of power dynamics grounded in their complexity. Moreover, recognizing the limits of our knowledge highlights the importance of context-specific analysis. What may be true in one setting or at one point in time may not hold in another. This underscores the need for a contextualized approach to power politics that takes into account unique circumstances and factors shaping power dynamics in any given situation. Furthermore, acknowledging the provisional nature of our understanding is crucial. By acknowledging the limits of our knowledge and the complexity of the systems we're studying, we can develop a more realistic appreciation of power dynamics, one that acknowledges the provisional nature of our understanding and the need for ongoing refinement. This recognition allows us to better navigate the complexities of power politics and make informed decisions about shaping the world around us. Ultimately, it's essential to recognize that even the most sophisticated models are only as good as the data they're based on, which is always incomplete. This realization can be daunting, as it forces us to confront the possibility that our best efforts may still result in inaccurate conclusions. However, this acknowledgement also presents an opportunity for growth and improvement. By recognizing the limitations of our knowledge and the complexity of the systems we're studying, we can develop a more realistic appreciation of power dynamics, one that acknowledges the provisional nature of our understanding and the need for ongoing refinement. This approach will allow us to better navigate the complexities of power politics and make more informed decisions about how to shape the world around us. One way to mitigate the risks of overinterpretation is to adopt a nuanced view of causality, which can help us avoid oversimplifying complex outcomes. In many cases, we're tempted to identify single causes for complex outcomes, when in reality, multiple factors are at play. This oversimplification can lead us to misattribute effects or overlook crucial variables that might be driving the observed patterns. By acknowledging the complexity and interdependence of these factors, we can develop a more robust understanding of how power operates. Moreover, embracing uncertainty can actually enhance our analytical capabilities by forcing us to consider alternative explanations and scenarios, which can lead to more creative and innovative solutions. This openness to revision also allows us to learn from our mistakes and adapt to changing circumstances, a crucial quality in the ever-evolving landscape of power politics. Furthermore, recognizing the limitations of our understanding is not a sign of weakness or lack of confidence but rather a hallmark of intellectual humility. In fact, recognizing the limitations of our understanding is not a sign of weakness or lack of confidence but rather a hallmark of intellectual humility. It's a recognition that our knowledge is always provisional, subject to revision and refinement as new information emerges. By embracing this uncertainty, we can develop a more realistic appreciation of power dynamics and make more informed decisions about how to navigate the complex world of politics. This awareness of limitations also enables us to learn from our mistakes and adapt to changing circumstances, a crucial quality in the ever-evolving landscape of power politics. When we acknowledge that our understanding is incomplete, we can re-examine our assumptions and adjust our models accordingly. This flexibility allows us to stay ahead of the curve, anticipating how power dynamics may shift in response to new developments or unanticipated consequences. Ultimately, recognizing the limits of our understanding is a hallmark of intellectual humility. It's a recognition that our knowledge is always provisional, subject to revision and refinement as new information emerges. By embracing this uncertainty, we can develop a more realistic appreciation of power dynamics and make more informed decisions about how to navigate the complex world of politics. As we grapple with the complexities of power dynamics, it's essential to recognize that any framework or model is always provisional, subject to revision and refinement as new information emerges. This understanding underscores the importance of embracing uncertainty, which enables us to develop a more realistic appreciation of power dynamics and make more informed decisions about how to navigate its complexities. Furthermore, this approach encourages us to continue exploring and refining our understanding of power, rather than becoming complacent in our current grasp.